Thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing with our expert in cybersecurity. Nima had a question.
Yes, I wanted to ask, I had to resolve something for an elderly person. I don't know how his SIM was done, but once he turns on his phone, an SMS goes to a foreign number every day for which he was debited. And he was asking me to resolve it. I swear to God, I didn't know what to do. I kept calling customer care, and they did not know what to do. Whenever he turns on his phone, that a call dials out to a foreign number and is debited from his credit. Then there was this flash call that would come from a foreign number from an unknown country into his phone, just like that. And if he tries to pick it or try to call back, he will get a tone message, something like that, like an automated message. How risky is this? What is the implication of it?
Thank you. So some of these things, just because one doesn't have the entire picture. So, I mean, one of the things that I do when one of the things we do is digital forensic. There's just a ton of information you need to get to be able to give proper advice on when it comes to very specific issues. But what I would say generally, especially around the phone call thing, okay, the fact that a number appears to come from another country does not mean the person is not in the door or in the house just next to you.
Are you for real?
Okay, there are tools that can be used to fake country numbers.
Wow.
I think some of them are actually even free online. Okay, so it doesn't mean that it's international. It doesn't mean it doesn't follow any of that. And also with regards to the other SIM thing, there are SIM swap frauds that happen a couple of times that SIMs are swapped and all those type of things. So look, it has actually even happened to me. Sometimes we sound infallible. One of the reasons, there are several reasons. One of the reasons why I went into this field, a couple of years back, I was in Lagos. I was, preparing for a Sunday service, very in the spirit and all those things. And then I was in somewhere in Lagos called Airport Road, Ajao Estate. And then I got a debit alert from Surulere, from an ATM machine. And so all my Sunday morning spirits just started coming down. Because initially the first thought is, did I do a transaction there and I just got, and this was like 10 years ago, then there were limits of 20K. I don't know how many of us can remember that time, okay, with ATMs. Then I got the second one, 20K again.
Hey.
At that point, I dropped my Bible, I dropped everything, said, no, there's a problem. This was the time where you could only withdraw 3 times in a day. There were these 3, and you could withdraw. So when I was like, oh my goodness, what is going on? What do I do? I got the third one, the final one for today. And I mean, I was just a fresh graduate from school and all these things. I mean, that was probably all I had at that period. The bank now does not really exist. It was taken over by one of the other banks. But by the time we did all the fighting and everything, they were showing you all these tiny things in these forms that you signed that we didn't really read, and there was not too much responsibility on them. And the camera, the ATM wasn't working, and all these things. So I mean, these are some of the challenges.
All right, Dr.
Thankfully, I think.
This is your Forbes Technology Council thing. What are some of the trends? I know you're part of that council. Tell us a bit about that, and what are some of the trends that has been discussed in that council?
Yeah, so Forbes Technology Council really is it's an invitation-only council for global technology professionals, across the world. So pretty much they will vet and be sure that you are a thought leader globally before you are invited and then accepted. And thankfully that happened for me this year. What are some of the cybersecurity trends that that I see generally? So we spoke about phishing already, and just because empirical data supports that. Another trend that we see, which you would have heard a lot about, is malware, which is really just malicious software. So it's software that is written with malicious intentions. One of them, for example, is what is generally called ransomware, which is a malicious software that encrypts your system and demands for ransom, and then they release a key to you that then decrypts the system, okay, and decrypts your data. Now, people have made a lot of money, especially in the Western world and across, with that sort of thing. So that's a trend we see that will continue, because a lot of the widely reported cybersecurity breaches now, especially in the US and places like that, they were ransomware attacks. Okay. Another one that we see happening a lot now is what is called credential stuffing. So your credentials, which is what your username and password, what you use to log in generally, credential stuffing is saying that multiple websites that we all visit, for some reason, we seem to have the same password on a lot of those websites. So when you hear that an airline has been hacked, okay, and data has been stolen, what credential stuffing attack does is that data is sold on the really does continue. And of course, the last one, which is pretty obvious. When it comes to cybersecurity talent, there's a massive shortage globally, and we see that trend is likely to continue.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Arakwe, for joining us. I mean, this is quite enlightening and revealing, so we have knowledge, but obviously something that we cannot complete today. We need to continue to learn more about this, because this is a new world we live in. We have to know how to protect our
hours. We're going to have in-depth analysis of the newspaper review and more conversations on the hot topics. The ladies of Your View and I will be stirring up our guests to get in-depth into all the various topics, and you, our viewers, will have the opportunity to call in and share your views. After all, it's your view. Join us on Your View, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. for a fantastic conversation. Don't miss it.
At TVC Communications, we're all about our audience. Millions of viewers, listeners, and readers every day all around Nigeria.
Our 2 TV stations are among the most watched in Nigeria.
TVC News is our award-winning 24-hour national and international news channel headquartered here in Lagos, broadcasting live from our custom-built state-of-the-art news headquarters.
TVC, the top-rated family entertainment channel, is the place for fun, music, and information.
Balanced and reliable every time. TVC and TVC News, watched by over 4.5 million people in Nigeria every day on terrestrial, DTH, DTT, OTT, and available to viewers in the UK on Sky TV. Watch all of our world-class programs on TV, online, and on our app. TVC and TVC News, the best entertainment and news for Nigeria on TV and online.
And when you can't watch us, listen to us. 102.3 Max FM Lagos and 90.9 Max FM Abuja are now ranked among the most listened to radio stations in Nigeria.
Now, with over 1.5 million listeners every day, we're the people's favorite radio station. Best hit music, best on-air talent. Max 102.3 hit music for Lagos and Max 90.9 hit music for Abuja. We are your home for that fun, entertainment, and hit music.
In Lagos, TVC, our leading family entertainment TV channel, has a 47% market share. But this is just the start of our journey, as we plan to add even more services to entertain and inform our ever-growing audience.
Thank you for staying with us. So World Suicide Prevention Day was on the 10th of September, and commemorating this day, we have Dr. Maimuna Yusuf Kadri, a mental health advocate, founder of the Pinnacle Medical Services Limited, and co-founder, Hygis Consult Nigeria Limited, Optimal Performance Consult. She's a consultant, neuropsychiatrist, and a fellow of the National Postgraduate Medical College of Physicians to talk about its prevention and raise more awareness. Welcome with us, Dr. Maimuna, to the show.
Welcome, Dr. Maimuna.
Good to have you. There was a time we used to have you back to back, but you abandoned us.
She has blown.
You've blown now.
Blown
so
now.
Because it's date, what new message is out there on how to prevent suicide?
You know, when this was made a day, that was, I think, 2003 as Suicide Prevention Day. And of course, September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. The new things we are looking into. There's nothing we are definitely reinventing. It's the things that are available to each and every one of us, especially with the advent of social media. With the advent of social media, if we do not report suicide cases responsibly, it can skyrocket into what we call the weatherman effect, you know, whereby we have that people, you know, now a well-celebrated suicide case will now be, people will start affiliating with it.
Becomes trendy.
Becomes trendy. You know, because, but of course, with COVID-19, the lockdown, the isolation, people are having
and it was
that
predicted.
Effect. Yes, it was predicted.
It was predicted.
The effect of COVID-19 is going to be another pandemic. And increase in the rate of mental illness is one of the things that were predicted. Financial issues, increase in rate of mental illnesses.
But you think in Africa we have resilience. You know that these are things. These are things that when small headache now you want to commit suicide, small stress now you want to commit suicide. But Nigeria now today you have that thing. Listen, we're strong. We're black. We know we've got to cover. You know, we have a very resilient people.
Which of the generation is resilient? Because you know we're in layers. We're in different groups. At the time we were growing up, we had.
How can we better? The thing is that the greatest risk for completed cases of suicide is a previous history of suicidal attempts. And when we look into that and we look at who are the people that are even at risk, and that came to your question, like why we Africans and all that. Well-established cases are linked to depression and abuse of substances. But there's impulsive cases of suicide. People that are vulnerable, that are exposed, refugee, migrants, racism. Then those of us in Nigeria, poor financial status, poverty, relationship issues, crisis here and there that people cannot really, you know, take, you know, kind of comprehend. We are in a society where therapy is seen as if it's a taboo, and the moment somebody like you say, "Oh, my friend is Dr. May," there is already an assumption that there's something wrong with you. So I have friends even stigmatizing me.
Wow.
They rather call me my friend as against my doctor. Because once you say you are my Dr. May is my doctor, like something don't do this game. You know. So people don't go for therapy because of that discrimination, stigma, prejudice, you know, attached to mental health. People living with mental illnesses and their families. And they just believe that these people can never recover. And these are myths that we are trying to break every day. And letting people realize that none of us, including those of us sitting in this room, have absolute immunity to having a mental illness. No vaccination. That is in incubator, that is already done, that you can take and say, if I take it, I am not going to have a mental illness. It's for us to normalize mental health conversations by building a culture of compassion. Because when there's a culture of compassion, people can't speak up, people can't speak out, people will encourage help-seeking behavior and know that there's something wrong with you, go for help, rather than like,
no. If I bring Lima in here, at the core of every help we hear is family. Which is what we had as Africans. So even though mental health or the mental health issues can be addressed in other clients by going to and see a therapist, here, once family comes together and shows you support, you get out of it somehow. In some, not all cases. But in some cases, the family comes together and they support you. So even abroad, they tell you stay with family, you know. So because we have that. So my point is that isn't our own natural, traditional way more effective than going to look for a therapist?
Depends on the level.
It's combination. It's better, healthier, cheaper, and more forward thinking to have a combination. It's like putting spirituality and orthodox. Even studies will tell you that those that are more spiritually minded heal better
Faster.
and faster.
Yeah.
So family is the core. We still need that family and social support, but that doesn't still take away the benefit of therapy if and when you need it, because we know that some of us are already sitting on the fence because we are coming from a family where there was dysfunctionality, there was divorce, death of one or both of your parents, trauma, child sexual abuse, and all those things. Or positive family is your mental illness. And it's not your fault. You are doing everything right. You are keeping sane, having good friends around you. You have a good job. You live in a good environment. You have a good and you still have a mental illness. You will start challenging your belief. How come I still have a mental illness? Because it's already encoded in your DNA because of the family history.
That you have.
Okay, so, even from history, we see that Africans, there's a way not necessarily that we deal with suicide. So if a person commits suicide, they do the burial from where they bury. They will take him to the evil forest. You know, so religiously, it is said that you commit suicide is a crime against God, and that hellfire is the destination. You never see paradise. So how do we change this conversation in these areas where it is important, so that the mindset start to see it as mental health issues? Because as we see now, a person who has some mental health issues might be seeing suicide as something beautiful because it's not sane. So how do we change that conversation?
So the thing is, because there's religion, when you look at the wheel of wellness, there's financial, physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, and all that. So you cannot take one away from the other. It's a combination of a 360-degree holistic human being. And so when people talk about when you die by suicide, you are going to hell, like how have you gone there to see what is happening there? People that died by suicide never really wanted to die. I need to nip that in the bud. People that died by suicide never really wanted to die. They wanted the pain to go away. So that is why when you look at the warning signs of suicide, what was the person saying before he or she died? Oh, I feel like a burden. Oh, the rapture should take place now. Nigeria is one cancer. This pain, especially those that have chronic pain too. Apart from people with mental illness, people that have chronic pain, what are they saying? What do you see in the person? Does it become aggressive, all of a sudden irritable, feels humiliated, depressed, anxious, or the behavior of the person visiting and calling people to say goodbye? We've seen people that died by suicide that actually did their funeral without you knowing. Gathered friends, celebrated, then in following morning, is the person sleeping too little or not too little? We have to understand there are certain things that, if malaria, we have not cured it now. All of us, we treat malaria. These days, we don't even do tests. When you are feeling summer, I think it's malaria. Even if it's not malaria, because even if your blood shows the best practice for malaria is go and do tests. But no, we'll go to the doctor. I have malaria. I know it's malaria. So the truth is that most medical conditions are treatable. And managing bipolar affective disorder, because it's the two ends of the polar, whether on one side depression, one side mania, is to give this person something that will be able to balance the mood. So that is why they give them what we call mood stabilizers. That doesn't mean that this person may not have maybe suicidal or harm him or herself later, but at least that treatment is there, counseling and therapy is there. If there's a need for admission at any point in time, the person goes, family support, the person should have work doing or be in school. It's all round, it's total package, not just one, then maybe you are helping the person. We've seen people that have mental health issues, they come to the clinic regularly, they take medication, as prescribed, but they are not getting better. Why? They're in a home environment that there is toxic, and there's a toxic relationship where we have what we call a high express emotion. And it is never one size fits all.
Doctor, so doing some studies in this, because this is also my line gradually, but through the spiritual angle.
Very important.
And I've been having conversations. So there's a particular person I'm working with who has had issues of suicide before, and he's gradually coming out of it. And after a while, he had to relapse, and we started. And one of the things I discovered is before that thing comes, it starts with a deep thinking of, I have failed everybody. I have failed myself. And we're trying to go through a process of how do you change those thoughts? Because those thoughts come
as feelings, and those feelings go into those behaviors and those habits and takes you down. So how do we start by teaching people how to understand that failure is okay?
Exactly.
Nobody should put you under pressure to have a form of success that is not yours. You will get there at your time. What sort of conversation do we begin to have with people around us who are constantly looking at themselves as have not achieved as much as Nima and a failure?
I know that thing comes from that when you feel that you haven't, you at a certain age you should have done X, Y, Z. No, there's what we call failing forward. You don't have to see failure as a big thing. Rather, see it as lessons learned and run with it. In fact, if you don't fail, you will never progress. It's because you failed on something that is why you are making adjustment and making changes. So what brings about those kind of feelings? What are the triggers for that individual? You must deep dive into every individual is unique, wonderful and fearfully made in the image of God. So you must deep dive into that person's, genetic makeup and know what are this person's triggers? What are the recent events? Because sometimes I've seen somebody was a manager, jumped 2 ranks and became a GM, GMD, because one of them retired, the other one relocated.
I won't lie to you, there are so much depression in society. You see, Nigeria is going towards a very dangerous end. Before now, there was nothing like suicide bomber in Nigeria. We used to hear it in the news in Iraq and Afghanistan. Today, Boko Haram institutionalized suicide bombing, and this one is gradually phasing out. The major challenge ahead of us now is this suicide mission. The suicidal, third bridge, and every other thing that you have seen. People die every day on suicide in their rooms. People buy snappers, $1,000 and drink it. This can happen. The government needs to change the mindset. The government needs to change policy on how to empower youth, especially the undergraduates. There are so many parents who can't pay their school fees. So many of them are at home now with their parents. They can't cope with the